been in the religions for a long, long time.
How about those nuns that you spoke about, the nuns from the medieval times that were actually ecstatic from the sexual energy?
Well, I can say that once we are cultivating sexual energy in an inward way, what we see is a transformation, a gradual transformation over time from an erotic response to an ecstatic response higher up in the body. And there have been many records of people accomplishing this over history, whether it's the ecstatic saints of India or the Sufi saints, or even on the Christian side, Mother Teresa of Avila and St. John of the Cross. These were very ecstatic people, and they don't talk of it in terms the way we do today of transforming sexual energy, but it is their capacity to love ecstatically that was awakened, and probably in their case by just avoiding sexual relationships and channeling that energy out into whatever kind of service or devotion that they were doing.
I was wondering if they had been using some type of practice.
Well, I think what you're referring to there is some of the Christian nuns from medieval times in the monasteries of Europe, actually. St. Teresa was one of them. There are quite a few of them. There's a book that's actually quite good on this. It's called Ecstatic Confessions by, I believe it's Martin Buber, B-U-B-E-R, who wrote about saints all over the world and did quite a lot of work in translating diaries from medieval European nuns and monks as well.
Yes.
And you see a lot of parallels there with the kinds of experiences that occur in yoga. One of the things that I should mention is that Tantra and yoga have a great deal of overlap. You could almost say they're synonymous in that they are looking at the same process of human spiritual transformation and stimulating it with many of the same or similar methods. And if you look in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which are much more recent than the Tantric scriptures, you'll find in the limb of restraints, which is one of the 8 limbs of yoga, something called brahmacharya, which is commonly understood to mean celibacy, but it actually means more than celibacy. It means the preservation of sexual energy, and it also means the cultivation of sexual energy. Brahmacharya means to walk in the creative power of God. And it's within that one word, brahmacharya, that all of the sexual side of Tantra can be derived. And that's really what we key off of in the Tantra lessons in AYP.
So if someone is deciding to be celibate, maybe an artist, then are you saying that the celibacy can serve to put that energy into other focuses in your life instead of expelling it and having the life force deplete?
Absolutely. But it's not a black and white thing.
No.
And people sometimes get the idea that it just has to be celibacy.
Yeah.
Other people may get the idea that it just has to be tantric sex. Other people may have the idea that they go it alone with solo techniques, which also involve sexual energy, but just being alone with it. And those are lifestyles. And Tantra is not about lifestyles. In fact, yoga is not about lifestyle. And there's a lot of confusion about that because people, particularly Westerners coming to yoga and Tantra for the first time, they think, well, I have to now wear the robes and I now have to be a celibate, or I have to, look a certain way or act a certain way. And celibacy is a lifestyle. It can be a very effective way of rechanneling the vast amount of energy we have within us. But so is intelligent use of sexual relations with a partner or spouse. Can be done very intelligently also and achieve the exact same result as the celibate. So we make a distinction between technique, results, and lifestyle in the AYP lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And what we say is that Tantra can be achieved with any lifestyle, whether you're married or a monk or just a single person who has an active sex life or a not active sex life, and even people who have no activity in sex life, whether it's by choice or by circumstance. These principles can be applied, and there are a number of techniques for doing this. It's not just an idea to stay in front of orgasm and then that's it. You don't have anything else to work with. No, we have some techniques which we can talk about as we move along here.
Yes, absolutely. I'd like to talk about what it means to cultivate sexual energy upwards.
Okay. Well, we begin doing that with spinal breathing pranayama in a very subtle, non-sexual way, although there can be sexual symptoms. Once we begin to address it more directly with tantric techniques, then we're actually stimulating the energy, whether it's in sexual relations or in certain postures, mudras and bandhas, which are physical maneuvers that we use in our body to bring the energy up. And that can be viewed from a non-sexual point of view of just doing some yoga techniques, or it can be viewed within the context of our sexual lifestyle, whatever that is. So, but however we view it and whatever techniques we're doing, and somebody who's really into yoga will be using all the techniques across the board to fit into whatever their lifestyle is sexually, then that will gradually bring the energy up on a regular basis and increase the capacity of our nervous systems to sustain those ecstatic energies higher up in our body. And then a whole series of other things happens, which then becomes a platform for other things to happen, which becomes a platform for other things to happen. And so there's kind of like a building block approach like that.
Yes.
We start with inner silence, with meditation, then we go to spinal breathing and do some cultivation there on a daily basis long term, and then we begin to address the energies more directly. The key to all of this is really to be cultivating inner silence with meditation. I mentioned earlier that people tend to fixate on Tantra as being sexual, and to do that is really, to the exclusion of everything else, is very ineffective. You really need an integration of practices so you can have the silence coming up and the ecstatic energy coming up at the same time. So these methods in Tantra address the sexual energy more directly.